up, right?
He has. For what?
For what? Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
what's sad about it.
Oh God. So
I
if he was
don't know how
listening,
to respond to that card with that comment on it.
No,
I think
no.
I should make it obvious that I've seen
Okay.
through it.
Well, if he was
It started
listening,
off with this opacity and riddle, but now it's completely transparent to me, especially after I've spoken to you about it.
Okay.
It is so transparent, it's unbelievable.
so if he was listening, and imagine that he is, what would you actually like to say to him?
I would say anything that I have done that you consider to be suppressive or a crime is not suppression or a crime. Anything that I've done is my aim at protecting you from losing your freedom of mind, from losing your money, from losing the love and care that you deserve in this life and later in life when you're going to need someone to rely upon, and to give up joy and laughter and freedom and care and just sharing a life with someone. But the promises that they have given you, I think, is absolutely tragic. And I won't give up. I don't hold out any hope of us having a relationship together while you're in Scientology, but I will never give up on you. And I will continue to fight. And if one day you see the light and you come out, I'm going to be there to help and support you. And I won't want any reward for it. It's because I love you. That's what I would say to him.
Wow, that's very moving. And I totally understand where you're coming from there. And I hope he does get to hear this. And if he doesn't get to hear this, but some of his OSA handlers, Office of Special Affairs people get to hear this, would you please
They won't care, they will, they keep.
Cop yourselves on, guys. You are backing the wrong horse. Think critically for a moment of what you've been told and what you believe. And let's be honest. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. But
they can't. Ultimately, they can't win over love, over family.
Absolutely
over care.
not. Absolutely not.
They try to crush these things because they are afraid, because they know damn well that is what people need in order to survive and be happy on this world. And without it, they're robots and they may as well not
gosh,
exist.
yeah.
But they won't ever stamp that out.
They are
That's
afraid of
their
emotion,
mission.
definitely.
They're going to lose. It's not. We don't want an Orwellian society. It's never going to happen.
Well said, and that sums it up very nicely. I've certainly noticed that this lack of emotion that my brother has when I've tried to speak to him and when he's been involved in family things. And I remember saying to my mum one time, like, we were both at the house for my uncle's funeral and we were leaving, and I had already gave my dad a big hug, which shocked him a little bit because we're not a very touchy-feely family, and yet I kind of realised that, you know, time's moving on and my uncle's passed away and my dad wasn't very well anyway, so I gave him a big hug. I love my dad, I still do. He's passed now, but I love him to bits.
And you're not afraid to say it.
And I'm not afraid to say it. And I was in the next room just packing my stuff, and my brother then was in the kitchen with my dad, and he was standing about 3 or 4 feet away, and he said, "Well, take care," and turned and walked out the house. And I thought,
oh my God,
what the fuck? So then I like,
so inhuman.
I know.
Unnatural.
He got in a taxi anyway and went, and I jumped in the car with my mom. She was taking me to the station, and I said, "Do you think he's a bit unemotional?" And she just burst into tears, you know. So, so the price we've paid as a family is just amazing, really, because like I've lost a brother, and he thinks I'm wrong for all the reasons that were mentioned in your card, you know. He's convinced.
You haven't lost a brother because you still consider him as your brother.
True.
You always will be his brother.
True.
It's him that's losing. It's him that's losing, and I think he will come back to you one day.
I certainly hope so, and I pray. And if he's listening to this, if he's listening,
it's very interesting what you just said about your dad and your mum and your brother, because my ex disconnected from his own mother.
Oh, wow.
In his early 20s, and he never really gave me the real reason. I think it's the way he was bringing up his boy, possibly, in Scientology.
But he disconnected from her.
She was a wonderful lady from what he has told me. She was eccentric, but she was a very loving and caring mother. And she went to her deathbed dying of cancer, and he didn't go to her deathbed to say goodbye to her. And I'm sure he regrets it to that day.
That is just unbelievable. He didn't go and give her he didn't go and give any touch assist then.
I worked family, and he used to tell me about his mum. I would say, well, these things indicate how much she loved you. She was a loving mother. She did these things because she cared, and he was beginning to soften and did accept, yeah, she was a good person. But he never got to tell her that. It was too late, so she died thinking that her son didn't love or care for her. And that caused a rift in his family, so he doesn't speak to his brothers anymore.
Yeah, that is...
It's cruel, it's harsh, it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's immoral, it's against the way of the world, it's against the way humans have evolved in family groups.
Yeah.
And they want to destroy it because it's so powerful. And how anyone that's in there can't see what they're doing is beyond me. But they are so weak in their own convictions that the only way that they can separate people and keep people in is by doing that.
That's so true.
It's unsincere. I take comfort in that they're scared of us.
Oh, I think they are. I try to compare what it was like when I was in and how did I feel.
Yeah, that's always an interesting take.
One of the things that I regret more than anything, and it's a fairly light incident, but a friend of mine came to see me from Canada, and I just thought, oh, this is a great opportunity to tell him how wonderful Scientology is. And I went on a sort of a half-hour tirade, which is almost exactly what Tom Cruise said on his tirade. We are the experts in the mind. We can solve the problems of drug addiction. We are releasing, curing criminality, and basically it was just like everything that Tom Cruise said. And I was actually programmed to say that to people. And my friend afterwards, he said he couldn't believe it. The person that he knew me to be wasn't there. I was just this robot. And when I saw the Tom Cruise video, I kind of went, aha, So basically,
you can look back and see yourself.
I can, but what we're getting out of this is that we're getting these Scientology clones who all think and feel the same way, which is nothing. But they all think like L. Ron Hubbard thought, and they all believe that they're freeing the world of mankind's problems. And the people who are really doing that they get a nod every now and again. But something here's the thing, when they send the volunteer ministers to these disaster areas, they just get in the bloody way.
I know, they're handing out leaflets and not doing anything.
Yeah.
The thing I've always found distasteful about that, the majority of people that actually are doing something, they don't publicise it. They just go in there and they do it and come out quietly. People saving lives.
That's right.
Nurses, doctors, that's part of their job. They don't get publicity from it. If you really want to do something, you do it for altruistic good.
But they're just wogs, Hayley, you know that, right?
Sorry?
They're just wogs.
They're just wogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
It's terrible, really, because when it comes down to it, a Scientologist needs a doctor sometimes, come on. The touch assist is not the universal cure-all. It doesn't
work. I've seen that it doesn't work. He knew it didn't work.
Yeah, I must admit, oh God, I've had some very strange things happen with them, that's for sure.
I think a lot of the stuff that is involved in Scientology, auditing and touch assist in particular, they get you into a state of hypnosis. If you have any real study of the way that the mind works or the brain works, you can see this kind of a hallucinogenic or drug effect.
I actually think it's the placebo effect.
One thing that always made me very suspicious when I first got interested in Scientology through him, because I was always interested in the mind. I'm just a naturally curious person.
Yeah.
And I read the MSMH.
All right.
And then Ron dismissed. They were talking about cells and structure, and Ron said, we're not interested in structure here. And I thought, well, you're not interested in the mind then, because the structure of the brain in all species across the planet determines their level of intelligence. That's why our brain has got so many folds in it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they say that the
is directly linked to how your intelligence and understanding develops. So to dismiss that, I thought, this is science.
Well, they say that the mind is not the brain. You know that, right? They say that the mind is not the brain. They say that the brain is this physical thing. You are a thetan, the spiritual being, and you have a mind, and you live in a body or whatever. And the mind is just a collection of pictures, but they contain all this other stuff as well. These 57 perceptics, they call them. It has to be somewhere. I mean, I don't particularly want to get into the Scientology view on is the brain and mind or whatever, but it would have to be stored somewhere, these things, you know, or is it in some parallel universe that we're not really aware of? I don't know. And you know what?
We don't know.
I don't care.
We're not arrogant enough to say we know. We're able to be sceptical and look at other viewpoints, so we're allowed to be.
We're free to examine the facts. Yeah. Well, that was a good pause.
Oh, I thought you was, you know, last interview we had, when I played it back, I thought, I'm talking over the top of him and I couldn't actually hear you, that's why I was doing it. So I'm going to really be quiet this time, see if he has any questions.
Okay, do you know what I think it is? I think it's that there might be a slight delay because we're talking on Skype, and
possibly.
That's how it happens. Because I certainly don't want to, I don't want to talk over you at all, you know.
Yeah. Another quick thing when we were talking about, you know, the science, and when I first met him, he saw a lot of the books I had on my shelf. It was like how brains think, and he said brains don't think, and he dismissed all this literature I had, particularly my Carl Sagan books. And then I later realised why he dismissed him. I was watching Carl Sagan's Cosmos because it's a favourite series of mine, has been since I was a kid, because he's so open, he doesn't patronise people, and he's open to argument and criticism and analysis and sceptical thinking. A wonderful man, one of my absolute heroes. And he used to just take the mickey out of the way he talks. I thought if I dared do that to Liverless Hubbard, you can imagine the berating I would get. So why is he allowed to criticise people that I admire?
And do you know what disturbs me?
You know, they knock critics. I thought, well, you're criticising people. It was the same with, I don't know if you know anything about Professor Brian Cox.
I do.
Coxey.
Yeah.
I love his series.
Yeah.
Because he makes science accessible to people. He doesn't dress it up in flowery language. And it's all about getting information across to people. And he would say, oh, we're dumbing down. I say, so what? If it gets the kids to love science, what does it matter?
Yeah.
He would criticise him. And when we watch programmes, he would talk over the top of them. And I thought, I wonder if it's because you're scared to hear anything that might challenge what you believe.
The thing is, Hayley, is like we can actually analyse things and be scientific and study things and look at them. They believe that they have that viewpoint, but it's actually what Hubbard told them, and it's only what L. Ron Hubbard said to them in a lecture or they read in a book, and that is the extent. That's the extent of their science. That's it.
So it's just quicksand, really, that they're standing on, isn't it?
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. When they get into a problem and they can't solve it, they say to themselves, "What would Ron do?" Get drunk, probably.
It's a sad and blinkered way to live your life. When you think of all the wonders that are out there to discover, if we'd all thought like that, people wouldn't have gone to the bloody moon, found medicine. You know, L. Ron Hubbard said that illness, less than 1% of illnesses in the world were caused by bacteria.
Yeah.
Absolute garbage. You think of the people that have died of bacterial infections over millennia. You know, half the world's population were wiped out by the plague.
Yeah.
Where's their answer for all of this?
Well, they were all PTS, you see.
Right, okay. And also, if they've got the answer and they really want to save the planet, do it tomorrow.
Exactly,
And all these books. Because it's all about bloody money.
That's been my point for a long time.
If I had the answer to all men's ills and wars, I would let everyone know tomorrow.
Me too.
And I'd be the greatest woman on the planet, wouldn't I?
Absolutely, and I would totally be the same as that. If I knew something big secret, I would give it to everybody right away.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
Any sane person would.
Totally. On that note, Hayley, I'm going to have to hang up here because this is my my Skype credit, and we've talked for half an hour about, so that should give us 2 nice segments for YouTube if anybody's bothered enough to listen. But listen, thanks for taking my call, and I'm really sorry to hear about the card and everything else. And
that's fine. It's just another in the past.
We'll talk again soon if something else happens. Okay.
Okay. Nice to speak to you. Thank you.
You too. See you. Bye.
Bye.